Hi good people, welcome back to my channel. I am Anna Francis and this is your channel of your choice. Thank you so much for always being there. Thank you so much for always tuning in. And this week I have a very interesting series of topics that I want to talk about. And this is going to be about self-love. We are going to be talking about how we should love ourselves. And actually I should start with what is self-love. And then the next video, I'll be talking about how can we inculcate self-love? How can we love ourselves? And the basis of this topic will be according to the word of God, that is the Bible. What does the Bible talk about love? And I will also be featuring a theorist. Remember, I'm a psychologist. A theorist by name Carl Rogers. What does Carl Rogers talk about self-love? And what does Carl Rogers talk about human beings? Now, you're going to forgive my hoarse voice because I have been down on the weather. And I will be bringing such tenets as worry self-love, self-actualization, developing self-concept. I'll be talking about ideal self. I'll be talking about real self, self-worth, self-awareness, self-actualization, and I know you don't want to miss this. But before I go direct to the topic, are you new in this channel? Feel welcome. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to follow. Do not forget to join the membership. If you have been watching this and you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe and let's talk about this. And I will be back. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining the membership and supporting this initiative. We'll be waiting for you to subscribe. Yeah, welcome back and thank you for subscribing. Just what is self-love? Now, I have three descriptions of self-love according to me and according to the dictionary and according to Carl Rogers. But before I talk about what self-love is, what does the Bible, the believers of the Word of God, what does the Bible talk about self-love? Now, the Bible tells us that in the book of Corinthians that we should love others the way we love ourselves. This is a commandment. And remember, commandment is the most important thing in the Bible. It talks about love yourself as you love others. And it also talks about if you don't love others, then you don't love God. Now, that part of loving others is what we talk about very much. And we forget about loving ourselves. So when we talk about loving ourselves, first of all, we inculcate that self-love in ourselves before we love others. In this channel, I have talked about several things about self-concept, but I haven't talked about these specific tenets that I want to talk about. Please go back and check what I've talked about self-concept. Now, I've also talked about having or giving from a cup that is full. And so if you have to love others, you have to love yourself first. Inculcate that self-love. Then it will be very easy for you to love others. And that is what the Word of God talks about. Now, Carl Rogers, who is a psychologist and who was a humanistic person who really talked about humanism, if I may call it like that, talked about self-concept that is in it. That we are born in that self-concept. That self-concept is innate. That we are born in it as children. And in this video or in this channel, I'll be talking about how you as a parent can inculcate that self-love in your child, that self-concept in your child, that self-confidence in yourself or in your child. But today I want to talk about us as human beings and adults. What is self-love? Self-love, one of the definitions of self-love is a state of appreciation whereby you appreciate yourself, appreciation of oneself, that grows in the actions that support our physical, psychological, and spiritual growth. Appreciating oneself through the actions that you do. How many actions or how many physical actions do you do that you know are hurting yourself? How much do you eat that you know very well is not good in your health? How do you appreciate? What actions do you do to appreciate yourself? How many things do you talk to yourself? Negative talking that you believe are hurting yourself. How many things do you believe from other people that you know very well are hurting yourself? And this is the first definition that we are talking about self-love. How do you hurt yourself physically? How do you hurt yourself psychologically? And how do you hurt yourself spiritually? How is your spiritual growth? What are these spiritual things that you believe that are really, really hurting you? What are these spiritual teachings that people are giving you that you know are hurting your inner self, and you accept them and you appreciate them? This is the first definition of self-love. Definition number 2, self-love means taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others. You heard that. I can repeat that, and I can repeat it very well. That self-love means taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others. And this is where the Bible talks about loving yourself before you love others. How much have you sacrificed to make others happy over your own happiness? Now let me talk about these ladies who are in love and these ladies who are married like me. How much have you sacrificed yourself for the sake of the love of your family? How much have you sacrificed yourself for the sake of making others happy? Are you people pleaser? This definition is talking about that. You don't take care of your needs. You don't take care of yourself. You just want to please other people. Now, I've also talked in this video about joy and happiness being within. But many other times that we forget ourselves, many other times that we forget our own happiness just to please others, just to make others happy. Are you a people pleaser? Then you have forgotten about yourself. That is definition of self-love number 2. And definition self-love number 3 is having high regard for your own well-being and happiness. Having high regard for your own well-being and happiness. Now this is what people call selfishness. What is self-love not? Self-love is not feeling high about yourself. Self-love is not being selfish. Self-love is not feeling that you're better than the others. Self-love is having high regard for your own well-being and happiness. Thinking about yourself, thinking about your inner happiness is what we are calling self-love. That is not being selfish. How often do you think about yourself? How often do you think about your happiness? How often do you talk to yourself and ask yourself, am I really okay with this? Am I happy about this? What do I feel about this decision that I'm just about to make? What do I feel about this decision that he or she, my friends, are just about to make or to think about myself? That is self-love. Now, the other concepts that I want to talk about in self-love, I talked about in the introduction, is self-worth. Now, self-worth will go hand in hand with self-love. Self-awareness will go hand in hand with self-love. Self-confidence will go hand in hand with self-love. And self-actualization will also go hand in hand about yourself. But before I talk about that, I've done so much research on that as a psychologist, and all these concepts have been mentioned by Carl Rogers in Humanism, which is his theory. Now, Carl Rogers is one of the fathers of self-actualization and self-love, other than Abraham Maslow, other than Freud, who talked about Freud talked about what, you guys? If you're a psychologist, come back and tell me. I know I'll remember it. And Freud is the one who talks about psychosocial. Yes, he's the one who talked about the 3 levels of mind, which I'm not going to talk about today. Today, my basis is on Carl Rogers. Now, Carl Rogers came up with whatever I've talked: the self-concept, the self-love, the ideal self, the real self, and let me talk and the congruence and incongruence in a person. So before I talk about the self-awareness, the self-worth, before I talk about that self-actualization, let me mention about ideal self and real self. Now, ideal self is what you would want to be as a person. Or maybe I mention it like this: what other people think you should be. That is ideal self. The real self is actually who you are. Who is Anna Francis? What do I think I am? Do I think that I'm a failure? That is my real self. Do I think I'm a winner? That is my real self. Do I think that I'm more than a conqueror? I am the real self. And when we have balance in the self-love and what we think we should be, that is the ideal self and the real self. What people think we are, what I think I should be, and what I am actually is, the balance brings congruence. Have you ever asked yourself why somebody seemed so happy? Why a celeb seemed so happy? Why a celeb was regarded very well by other people? But all of a sudden, that person goes down into depression. That person goes down and thinks otherwise about themselves. This is what we call incongruence. Congruence is when we have a balance between what we think we are or what we should be and what we are actually are. There is the ideal self and the real self. Now, that can only be calculated, or that can only be there when we have this, what we are calling self-love. What do you think about yourself? What is self-concept to you? Now, self-concept is another term that I cannot forget to talk about. And self-concept are the feelings. Where is that definition? I have several definitions about self-concept. Now, self-concept is what we feel about ourselves. The thoughts about ourselves. What we think we are. Are we negative? Are we positive? Are we negative? That is our thoughts and feelings about ourselves. It's self-concept. Now, all these terms will bring in self-love. And I am saying that in the next video, I will be talking about how the tips and the practical and the practices that we can put in our lives that will bring self-love. How can we love ourselves? So let me go back now to what concepts I wanted to talk about again. There is the self-worth. Self-worth is feeling that you are a good person who deserves respect and who deserves to be treated well, who deserves to be loved by others. Now, you can't have self-worth if you don't love yourself. Do you feel that you're a good person? Do you feel that you're a failure? Do you feel that other people feel that you're not good? That is what we call self-worth. Now, Carl Rogers talks about self-worth, which is positive. Feeling positively about yourself. I am a good person. I should be treated with respect. I respect myself. So before others respect me, I should respect myself. And that is what we are talking about, self-worth. Before self-worth, what is self-awareness? Are you aware that you survive? Are you aware that you exist? Are you aware that you are a person by name Anna? Are you aware that you are a person by name John? By name Jane? By name Susan? Who are you? So, self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself. Now, let's be real. How often do we focus on ourselves? How much are we busy such that we forget about ourselves? Me included. Now, these concepts that I'm talking about, self-love, are things that came to me during COVID-19. My mom says that if COVID-19 never changed you, then you'll never be a changed person. And so, for the last 3 years, I have really regarded myself high. And I have made it to balance myself. Not to think high of myself, not to think that I am over the moon over the others, not to step on the others, but to practice this self-love and this self-concept. Now, I hope you have a notebook and you're noting this. And you can pause and think about these concepts that I'm talking about. Sit, pause fast, take notes about yourself, journal about what you have been thinking about. So self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions focus on yourself, how your thoughts, how your emotions do not align with yourself. That is self-awareness. Are your thoughts, are your actions, are your feelings aligning with your internal standards? Who do I call myself? Do I respect myself from inside? Are my actions betraying me? Are my feelings betraying me? Am I aware about my internal existence? Or do I just look at what people say I am? What people feel about me? Now, in this social media, there are comments that make content creators feel bad, content creators feel belittled, content creators feel that they are not worth it. How do I feel about those comments? How do you feel about what people say about you? Do you wait for people to align you to their standards? Do you wait for people to say that you're not good? Do you wait for people to put your bar up or to put your bar down? Self-awareness. This self-awareness can be bodily awareness. How do you feel you look like? Do you feel you don't love part of your body? Like I've been talking about this part of my skin. This sunkening eye bags. How do I feel about my height? Because people say I'm short. How do I feel about it? Do I dwell on what people are talking about how I look? That is bodily self-awareness. Social self-awareness. What do people say about me? Do I believe it? Do I think it should be? Are they there to rubber stamp that is how I look is not good? And then we also have introspective self-awareness. Your inner self-awareness. What do you talk about yourself? And that is what we call self-awareness. Now I have another one that is self-concept and self-confidence and self-acceptance. Do you accept yourself? Are you just existing, or you're just existing because people say that you exist? Do you accept how you look? I have accepted about my height. I don't believe I'm that short, even if people shame me by saying I am short and I wear high heels just to be tall. That is something that was really hurting me. But after 3 years ago, now I know I am worthy how I look. I love myself the way I am. I have accepted myself the way I am. I have known how to develop my skin, develop the breaking and the breakup that has been coming, especially after visiting the dermatologist. If you haven't watched that video, please watch. I now look at myself differently, and I don't care how people think about myself. I don't care how people think I look. I don't care the comments that people make, because that is what I call negative energy. And so if you don't love any part of your body, just work for it. Work on it. Try to accept yourself and say, this is how I look. I have to work on it. This is how I feel. I have to eat differently. And this is how I should be. This is my ideal self. And this is my real self. I don't care about what other people think about me. And that is what we call self-acceptance. And then we have self-confidence. How do you feel about yourself? Are you easily belittled? Are you easily hurt by people? How do you regulate your emotions? Are you confident about yourself? Have you worked about yourself such that whatever people say about you, you can stand in and say no? Have you created boundary? Are you confident enough to say no to the hurting that people are causing? How happy are you with yourself? Are you happy inside? Do you have that self-confidence of telling people no? Do you have that confidence of telling your friends, you know what? I am not happy about what you're talking about me. I am not happy about what you're telling me. I wasn't happy by the comment that you made about how I was dressed on this and this day. I was not happy about how you commented about my eyes and how I look and how I've gained weight or how I've lost weight. That is what we call self-confidence, and it should come from inside. Now, in my line of duty, and I like mentioning this, I have really, even in this video, tried to build self-esteem on people, self-confidence on people, positive regards on yourself. And Carol Rogers puts very well that you should have positive regard about yourself. You should have congruence inside you, because it should start from inside. And as you do all those, the self-awareness, the self-confidence, the self-worth, the self-love, the self-ideal you, the real self, the ideal self, then you come up with the self-actualization. According to Carol Rogers and Abraham Maslow, who are theorists or psychologists, or who were psychologists, because I don't think they are living, the realization of your potential. This is where we realize that I can be a psychologist, I can be a counselor, I can be a teacher, I can be anything that I believe I can be. And this is where now we fight and have incongruence. Before we reach there, the self-actualization takes so long for us to reach there. The fulfillment of one's talents, your potential. What are you capable of doing? Before I opened this video, this YouTube channel, I didn't know I could stand in front of people and talk. I didn't know that I could stand and have that self-confidence and tell people that this is how it should be. Because all along, I thought I was not worth it. All around, I thought I did not have that self-confidence. I didn't have that self-esteem. And I had to work on it. And we are all working on self-actualization, on our potential, on our full development of one's abilities. And that is what I am working towards. Take a notebook and talk about this. Let's avoid depression. Let's avoid demeaning ourselves. Let's avoid thinking that what people think we are is what we are. I hope you've taken notes. I hope you are talking to yourself. I've really researched on this and have really worked on myself even to be able to be talking about this topic. Guys, I don't want it to go longer. I don't want to bore you with more stories, but I hope it has really helped you and it has really made you to sit back and reflect about your life. Reflect about yourself. Sit for once and think about yourself. Think about who you are. For once, sit back and think about you as a person. You as Anna. You as Anne. You as Francis. You as Erica. You as Diana. You as John. Milka. Damon. Name yourself. Call yourself by name. And have that self-concept of yourself, because it is innate. It is innate. But through the environment, we change and we stop thinking about it. The nature and the nurture are the ones that change us to be something else. But we can come back and think about yourself. Think about ourselves and think about self-love. So I will be back in the next video talking about how the practices that we can put in our lives in order to have that self-love and love ourselves so that we may be able to love others. I will be back. Subscribe and God bless. Oops.